Hello, my name's Craig Hilton. Thank you, Thredbo, for inviting me to speak, and thank you for your commitment to the environment and for understanding why I have recorded this rather than fly. I have called this talk Why Climate Action Still Matters from a science, art, walking, and activism perspective. But I should introduce myself. I'm a father. I have two sons. This is Conrad and Huxley. They're in their mid-20s now. And this is Violet, my daughter. And these three wonderful human beings are strong motivators for me. I trained as a scientist in biomedical research. I have been a cancer researcher, an immunologist, geneticist in New Zealand and in the US in Boston for a number of years. Before, um, but later, in what can only be described as a kind of midlife crisis, I did a master's in finance at Auckland University on the premise that I would take photographs, which is what I submitted in my portfolio. But instead, I really got interested in conceptual art, and especially in regards to creating events that where art could sort of discuss and create conversations and around science and technology and implications. For instance, on the left, Billy Apple, in regards to the genomic revolution, he's passed away sadly, but his cells have been immortalized. I've sequenced those cells and published all his genetic um, likelihoods of disease and whatnot, including behavioral traits. And and done quite a lot of other work with him as well in relation to that sort of field. But and the one on the right is just sort of something completely different, but also 15 years ago or so. This was part of the Auckland Art Festival where there's a street called Yomak Place. This is called How We Got to Yomak Place. I wanted to write all the things that happened before Yomak Place existed, this little dead-end industrial street. And obviously, as the pole was only 4 meters long, we had to skip some things out. But there we have it. I'm also been a climber. One of the reasons why I think I was invited to speak as well. I have to reevaluate what I'm capable of. And I call myself an alpine tramper nowadays. But that's Cronin Glacier behind me there in Arthur's Pass National Park. That's Aoraki. New Zealand's highest mountain. There's a number of climbs on this mountain. In fact, it's the low peak that we're looking at. But the south face, I've done routes on that and on other parts of the hill. Many of those routes now are quite hard to climb because of decreasing snow and ice, and modern climbers having difficulty getting access to a lot of areas because of global climate change. The Hooker Glacier is straight in front of us. It's retreated round the corner now. You can see its moraine, and many of the ice is disappearing in New Zealand, being particularly vulnerable because we're a mountainous South Island and in the middle of a very warming ocean. Our bird life is disappearing right in front of my eyes, and certainly before that as well. Because prior to humans arriving, there were no mammals except for a couple of species of bat. And these Kias, who I really love, very smart animals, smarter than many voters, have very much decreased in. I used to see them in the many dozens in the valleys, and now they're a rarer sighting. This is Fiordland National Park, one of my favourite places in the world. It's also one of the wettest places in the world, and it's starting to have droughts, and we're getting species lost there. This is the Franz Josef Glacier on the west coast, South Island, in an 8 year gap between photographs. You can see how much ice has retreated from the Franz Josef Glacier terminal. I don't think we should. I really think it's important that we stop and give some respect to the scientists who've done a very good job at showing us that climate change is one, real, two, caused by us, mostly by the production of greenhouse gases and over the time that we've been using fossil fuels in particular, over the last 200 or so years. Um, I think it's really important that we give them that respect and we move on because we need to talk about what we're going to do. We need to also, I have to point out, I said I was an activist, but I'm also a hypocrite. It would be hypocritical of me to tell you how to live your life or have your holiday or work or what you do or what you buy, especially if you're younger than me. I've lived one of the most luxurious generations that have ever been lived, and possibly ever will be lived as a result of my life being empowered by fossil fuels. So I think we need to move on. I do my best. My friends and I, we challenge each other about what we can and can do, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm sure you guys do your best as well. But let's get on with deciding what to do. It's an existential crisis, but it's hard to give up. I'm a pathological optimist. So what is this predicament we need to get out of? Is it we have a heat imbalance. So any system is balanced if the amount of energy going into it is the same amount of energy going out. So if you put more heat into a system than leaves the system, you're going to get warming. Um, if you put less heat into a system than leaves the system, you're going to get cooling. This is why we have ice ages. And indeed, we had a snowball Earth once before, and life nearly petered out, and this possibly happened more than once. So the things that stop heat leaving include reflection from land and ice and other things, but also by the absorption by greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases absorb energy and radiate out, both out and down. But as a result of the increasing numbers of greenhouse gases in that upper atmosphere, our Earth has a heat imbalance. It's really important to know that we have evolved as an interglacial ice age species. We've had a really good run of 10 to 12,000 years where the temperature has only been plus or minus 1 degree. And even over the hundreds of thousands of years before that, it's been okay for us to evolve and survive. There are many instances of historic Earth where we wouldn't, a species like ours, just wouldn't survive. We're just not made for it, physiologically or biochemically. So we have a heat imbalance, and that heat imbalance is now a system which can be counted in the orders of tens of zettajoules. So a zettajoule is a billion trillion joules of heat each year. So it's hard to understand what that is. But if you translate it as something more understandable, the planet's currently heating at a rate of over 12 Hiroshima nuclear bombs per second, or over 1,150,000 per day. The oceans alone are heating at 11 Hiroshima bombs per second. This energy has been added to the system continuously. This is fast. It's happening over the last 200 years. In the past, it's happened very slowly, and ecosystems might have adapted better, but nevertheless, there were extinctions. But this is happening over 200 years, and the rate of change is our main concern. And as you know, the recorded temperature history is showing increases every year. It's also important to note that the ocean, as we said, that 11 Hiroshima bombs per second is heating the ocean. So the ocean has been absorbing a lot of this extra heat on our behalf. And that, of course, is going to impact us downstream as well. But in addition, the oceans can't do this forever. And this is why we're starting to see scientists say more impact on land, in particular, for instance, what we've been observing in Europe this summer. So why so disinformation about something so existential and so important? We know the tobacco industry playbook and what they did regarding sowing disinformation around the causes of lung cancer and its relationship to smoking cigarettes in order to squeeze some more profit. So it's not surprising that the fuel industry, which is roughly $1 trillion a day business, is sowing disinformation. But why do we fall for it? Is it because we want to fall for it? Is we too attached to our luxury? I know I am. I know that's understandable. Is it fear? Also understandable. Whatever it is, our resistance to listening to the science and acting accordingly needs to stop. And what about our leaders? You know, so I did this work a while ago, the one on the left with 9/11. I was in New York at the time. It was about the sort of industrial military complex taking advantage of tragedy for making profit. Post the Cold War and finding some new thing to make us all scared off so they could spend lots of money. So now I've um, put sort of fires and floods in the background while Mona Lisa continues to smile. It's just something about climate change. It's just something about something. The more existential it is, the more we don't want to talk about it. It's a bit like bringing up death at a dinner party, I guess. So, and I want to talk about these two friends of mine because I think these have both of them have two interesting stories. This is Bruce Maholsky and Matt Green, two friends and two people I greatly admire. Let's talk about Bruce. He's an artist, a curator. He's got this wonderful museum he lives in. It's a bit like wandering through Bruce's mind of his collected artifacts and things that interest him, and they're very interesting to other people as well. He's also a climate activist. He's every day. He's very committed. He's a father of two wonderful children, Jazz and Phoebe, and he's an absurd man. So he understands, I believe, what Camus was talking about, that sometimes in the face of an existential crisis or meaningless or whatever it is, it's really important to have humor and to continue, I think is a very good point. So he and I decided to do some experiments around this concept. In 2019, the New Zealand government declared that it is a climate emergency. I understand the Australian government has also recognised a climate emergency, and your Minister for Climate Change and Energy, I wish we had one, acknowledged it in February 2024. As of 2026, 33 to 40 nations have done the same, with approximately 2,300 local jurisdictions also declaring climate emergency. These declarations of emergency have followed 2018 implementation of the Paris Agreement, which is legally binding. We signed it in 2016. So did 195 other countries. So this is encouraging, we all thought at the time. But however, one would reasonably hope that when you declare an emergency, business as usual will be somehow disrupted, and that leadership would emerge to help us rally around the issue at hand. We would expect the leaders to have declared the emergency, who would implement some urgent actions and keep us focused so that we can make some sort of progress towards resolving this problem. There should be sirens and much commotion. However, it doesn't seem to be. And another important point Bruce and Matt and I all agree is you need to act locally. A lot of people yell at us that China's worse, so why bother? But we live in Dunedin. It's a pretty small city. But recently, last year, Jetstar announced that international flights would begin between the Gold Coast of Australia and Dunedin. This is not taking away emissions. This is adding emissions. So we had to go down there, of course, on the day the first plane arrived. There's Bruce with a sign saying it's a climate emergency, also wearing a t-shirt saying the same thing. That's him inside, really not causing me any trouble, not a threat. However, trouble did come to him. He escaped with a warning and trespass notice for wearing this offending t-shirt that says just what the New Zealand government has already stated. Somehow it's not okay to say it in the Dunedin airport. So we came back with friends. Bruce has friends, and we all turned up to try it again. And here we are inside. But of course, Bruce. And the police arrest him and take him from beanies to bikinis to jail, where he and his offensive t-shirt belong. It took about 5 police officers who drove 25 minutes to pick him up and to take him and plonk him in jail. We did try a few things earlier in the airport experiments. This was the Dunedin City Council rooms. They pretty much ignored us. This is the library. Lovely people, librarians, also ignored us. Christchurch Airport, these are Christchurch locals. And the security guard kind of hinted to me that he was a bit on the same page as us, and nothing happened there either. But then it got really amusing. So when Bruce went to court about his crime, I went there wearing a t-shirt in the gallery. No one even really noticed. Bruce was wearing his in the dock, and Rona Dace, who's this wonderful person and Officer of Legal Services, also wore it. But the judge told her that she had to remove that shirt and leave the court before the court case could continue. This is so incongruous that we can have something so existential going on, but wearing a t-shirt becomes the focus of everybody's chagrin. So one of the funny things that happens, it's a good thing, I think, when you get found guilty of a crime in New Zealand, you have to pay fine towards the victims of your crime through by giving this money to the New Zealand Police Victim Support Group, which was $50. And Bruce decided to draw it, taking a leaf out of J.G. Boggs. He drew the $50, gave it to them, saying it's a drawing that he values at $50. Would they accept it in payment? They said no. So I bought it with a New Zealand $50 note, which he then paid as fine. And now I own this wonderful drawing of Bruce's and the receipt. And that with the offensive t-shirt, we auctioned on Trade Me, which is New Zealand's kind of version of eBay, and managed to get $725 for the three items on also with the promise that half of the proceeding of the income of the funds would go to the New Zealand Police victim support and the other half to climate action. There's the two lovely women from the New Zealand victim support in Dunedin who it was okay from their bosses in Wellington for them to be photographed when we gave them the $380. However, it wasn't okay to wear the offensive t-shirt saying just what the government has already told us. Similarly, with Matt Green, who's faced kind of in strange things as well in his activities. He's a bit of a whiz kid all round. He's worked for Greenpeace, George Monbiot, Adam McKay, who's the Don't Look Up director, and climate documentary filmmakers and crews. He just finished his Masters of Science Communication, analysing the impact of Fast Track project on the environment. Fast Track is a system by which our government can sidetrack environmental protections. So he puts things on social media, mostly Instagram, and compiles extreme weather events. There's a video one here. And he would get up to several hundred thousand followers. One time he got 300,000 followers and he had 110 million views in the collaborative project he was doing. But these social media platforms just tend to kick him out regularly. Sometimes he only lasts a week. And so he's had to restart many, many times for telling the truth. So the other thing he is very well informed. So this is before he's a master's student, a bit younger. One of the New Zealand politicians decided to cherry pick a science article that sort of supported his opinion. And Matt pointed out that there was bad science. In fact, the journal retracted it. So he knows what he's talking about, and he's influential, yet he gets silence, much in the same way Bruce and his t-shirt have been. Matt also is a proponent of, and Bruce and I agree, with telling the truth about the predicament we're in, that this heat imbalance isn't going to go away, and that if we don't stop things soon, many, many people will die in our lifetimes, and especially in the generations to come. And so his sticker activities have been sort of posting these inconvenient facts. So Matt, Bruce, and I also not only do we think it's important to be honest, we also uh, understand that we need system change. Individuals can only do so much. Corporations are making money out of the business of usual. It's in the interest of politicians to support that. We need to hold them accountable, and we need to continue to act. Why do we need to continue to act? I've been convinced by Andrew Boyd's book and others, um, and the facts say that every 0.01 degree of heating that we can decrease is going to make it better for future generations, including the ones that are on this planet now. And we have to strive to that. We need a better catastrophe. We also need a better society because things are going to change. We don't want the road. I don't know if you've seen the road, Reddit, or either or or the graphic novel. But this is something that we want to avoid as best we can. So we need a kinder and better society. We also need to hold our politicians accountable and our corporate heads accountable. It's really important that these guys don't get away with their greed. So I just thought I'd quickly finish with a couple of slides from Australian ski fields, skiing in the Anthropocene, sourced recently, Victorian um, uh, ski resort, I believe. Thank you for listening to me. I wish you the best. Thank you, and all the best.